Hello, everybody. Q here with Project Nerd, and it is time once again for the Dickens Horror Film Festival. Now, this is one of my personal favorite fests because I'm a big horror nut. Who isn't? If you're not, you should be. And I'm very excited to sit down with filmmaker Tom Young today to discuss his film Ribblehead, which is going to be playing at the Dickens Horror Film Festival. How's it going, Tom? How are you?
It's going good. Yeah, very well. Thank you. Pleased to be here.
Pleased to have you. Now, I know that the time zones are a little different. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in London, UK.
London.
Yeah, and it's
What
4
time?
p.m.
4 p.m.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you. It's like the end of the day, maybe ish.
Yeah, in about a month it would be dark now. It's not quite yet, but it will be soon.
Nice, nice. Well, I was going to ask too, how is one of the kind of elephants in the room, and especially when we're doing obviously digital interviews for a film festival,
Yeah.
is how are things on the kind of COVID side of things there in London?
Well, we have no restrictions now. Everything's gone back to normal. You don't even have to legally wear a mask in a shop
Wow.
or on a train. So yeah, that's been the case since July. Cases have been going up, but they've broken the link between cases and deaths. So deaths are going up, but much more steadily, and everyone is just kind of holding their breath for the next bit, really, as we go into winter and like just watching the graphs and see whether we
Sure.
go back into lockdown or not. But it seems to be that for the time being, there is no no further restrictions are looming on the horizon. So everyone's just kind of making the most of it while they can.
That's good. That's tentative good news.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the best we can hope for at this point, I think.
Absolutely. Now, when your film Ribblehead, when did you shoot this film?
This was shot in October 2018.
Okay.
So a while ago now. Yeah. And
So
it's been
pre everything. And when did you finish the film?
in April this year.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, there was a fairly long post on it. That's mainly because we ran out of money.
Sure. Hey,
uh,
I totally understand. On an independent production, money is kind of king, right? Like,
yeah, you
if
can't really do anything without it. Well, you can, but you have to do it all yourself, and then it's not any good. So then you have to pay someone else to do it.
so, how does it feel to be done then? How does it feel to have it completed?
Yeah, you know what? It's a weird thing when you have such a massive project and then it comes to an end. You have like obviously the bit that you've been hoping for ages, you've arrived at, which is having a completed film. And at the same time, you have a bit of a sense of like, oh, my whole life has been about this for the past 3 years. Like, what do I do now?
Sure.
So yeah, weird mix of those sort of two things. And then yeah, you just sort of like the difficult bit is finding the sort of the chutzpah and the energy to sort of keep promoting it and also occasionally like keep watching a film that you've seen, like I countless times. I don't even know how many, like hundreds. So
Sure, sure,
yeah.
totally understood. Now, are you just kind of starting the festival circuit then with the film? How many have you played up to this point?
We've played 3, I think. So
Awesome.
two in the US, Phoenix, Arizona, and Aesthetica. I don't know if you know, it's like
Yeah.
Chicago based, and Blue Whiskey, which is in
Oh yeah.
Chicago. And then there's a couple more to come still. That's it for the selections, but there's a lot more entries, and hopefully they'll yield something further down the line. I guess we've probably got about another 6 months of festival runs to go.
Sure. How has the feedback kind of been so far for the film, and how do you go about getting that when you're doing things kind of remotely?
Yeah, it's hard, particularly when you can't go to the festivals because all the ones in the
Sure.
US are like I haven't been able to go to. So it's really weird, sort of thinking about like people sitting in a room watching it and not being able to get feedback. And
Sure.
that feedback is so vital on a project like this because a lot of the times that the people who watch it in the production process are like people who are very close to it, and getting that kind of completely third party take is really important. Yeah, it's difficult. sort of try and put it out there as much as possible in this country, just private viewings as well, and get people to watch it. But yeah, people who get it seem to get it, and people who
Sure.
don't get it, like, don't really get it at all.
Sure. Well, I think that's a perfect kind of segue into kind of what the film is about. We've kind of danced around the technicality side of it, but so what is, for those who aren't familiar with the film, what is Ribblehead about?
It's Ribblehead is a story of a writer who is struggling with his difficult second novel, and he inherits a house in the countryside from his uncle, and he moves to the countryside with his wife in order to beat his writer's block and write that difficult second novel. As he starts to research and investigate a local history landmark, he sort of finds it as suitable material for that book. The more and more he sinks into the research and into the story, the more and more the research and the story sink into him. And from there on out, it's a battle between how much does he love his writing versus how much does he love his wife, basically.
Ooh, interesting. Intrigue. Where did the kind of genesis of this film come from? What was the kind of impetus?
Yeah, I mean, the stuff on the landmark was like, I used to be a writer myself, and that was just stuff that I had been interested in and been researching. The idea to make it a scary thing was always there because it's such a like naturally spooky and sort of atmospheric part of the world that would just seem like the natural setting for the story. And the whole thing about writers is they spend a lot of time inside their own heads, and if they're not careful, and even if they are careful, they end up writing about themselves a lot, and
Yeah,
always. In fact, all writers in some way are writing about themselves.
sure.
And the idea of the story was to kind of explore that and sort of go a little bit into like, is there a way that you can write that isn't about that's kind of outwardly facing and to do with others and not solipsistic.
Sure. So this is, and I was looking at it too. So is this your first feature? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And how did it kind of open up a can of worms for you? Are you now like, all right, what's next? Or are you kind of like, all right, let's sit on this one for a little while? What's the feeling?
Yeah, I mean, initially I was like, never again. And now I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah,
It only took
totally.
6 months. From one to the other, it was a pretty quick journey. 6 months, I was like, never again. And like, immediately, I want to do this.
Yeah,
So
I can't wait. Can't wait.
it's just when
What
you go back and do a normal job, and then you're like, oh, it's not the same.
this isn't for me. This is not
No,
what I actually signed up for.
no,
Um,
yeah.
so in when you were making this film, something that I'm kind of interested in, especially with filmmakers, and especially in kind of like the horror kind of spookier genres,
Yeah.
what were there any media that you were taking in at the time that you feel like influenced it, like music that you were listening to at the time, or like
Mm,
movies or series that you were watching that you feel like may have kind of
mm,
impacted the filming?
mm. Yeah, I mean, in terms of immediate style, like the thing, I tried not to watch anything like too much when we were actually doing it because I just didn't want any more ideas crowded in because it was fairly. But in terms of the background sort of touch points, the two things that, I mean, these are very grand references, but it's true. Like the two things that were sitting in my head at the time when I was writing it and when we were doing the storyboarding was Alien and The Shining, which are like two of my
Okay,
favorite films of all time.
of
Like
course.
particularly Alien, just in the pacing, and the way that they move the camera, and the way that sort of like moves you through the story. Like that was the thing that I really had in mind the most. And then there's a lot of, I was reading a lot of kind of like there's a lot of like British ghost story fiction that was kind of written in the 19th century, and it's all set in sort of moorland or like, you know, rural parts of Britain where there's lots of mist and lots of
Sure.
moors. So I was reading some of them at the time as well, which kind of helped influence the like the background thinking and the
Sure.
atmosphere of the story.
Yeah, I will say that I have recently, and I don't know if this is a great reference or not, but recently I've
Mm.
kind of dove into. I feel like the British horror sensibility tends to be um, kind of a more like grounded, but almost like blackly humorous approach
Yeah,
to horror, like as
yeah.
opposed to just kind of the straightforward. And like some series that I've been watching lately is I like absolutely love Inside Number 9.
Oh yeah, yeah. I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things. Yeah.
It's a great series, but it has
Mm.
kind of these thematically, it seems on par with what I've seen. You know, I watched the trailer of your film and I kind of read
Mm.
about it,
Mm.
and it seems on par kind of with this like kind of psychological horror,
Mm.
but that's very
Yeah.
grounded in kind of like a real atmospheric place.
Mm, they always have a
Um,
really strong sense of place, definitely. Like that's one of the notable things about them. And yeah, there is often a psychological element. Like often the lead character is like in some way has aspersions cast on their sanity. Quite often they're women as well, the lead characters. So.
sure. Sure. Well, as we, you know, you said that you have been a writer and you wrote this film about a writer.
Yeah.
And you know, kind of famously, Stephen King has been interviewed about his novels, and that it was very cathartic way of him like dealing with things that he was dealing with.
Mm.
Did you find the writing or the filming particularly cathartic in any way for you, or is this a totally separated like? This is not a me character kind of thing?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I mean, definitely, like I said before, it like, you know, it always is part of you, in to some level. And like, yeah, all writing I find definitely cathartic because it's a way of processing the world and, you know, just making sense of it and trying to turn it from something that is presented to you into something that you're presenting. And that process is like, you know, it's like anything. It's like that's how you're trying to make sense of stuff. So the writing, yeah, the filming was totally separate and very uncathartic in a way
Sure.
because it's just
Very,
like
very, very stressful and
it's
involved.
just crazy, like logistics and like, you know, batteries and like, oh no, this doesn't work and like da, da, da. And it's like it's not, it's weird, it's not really a creative process at that point. Like
Sure.
it's just get it done, get it down, get stuff in the can. The
Right.
writing and the editing is the creative bit I always found.
Sure. Now, not to put you on the spot with anybody that you worked with on the film, but were there
Yeah.
any relationships forged on the film? People that you're like, man, these are people that when I do my next thing, these are people that I definitely want along with that journey? Or was it like all of these people were incredibly difficult and I'm going to have a whole new crew when I start over next time?
There's yeah, mix of both. So
Sure.
yeah, won't go into specifics, but like some definitely like, and it's hard when you're first starting out because there's people who are more experienced than you on a crew, right? Like particularly
Sure.
if you're directing, like, you know, almost always like their turnover is higher than yours, so they will have worked on more sets and like they have more set experience and yeah, so like it's always this thing of like when do I put my foot down and when do I like sort of take from the experience of people who've had sort of more time on a set than me. Um, and like my instinct was always to go, you know, be as collaborative as possible, which is great until you run out of time, and then like you just have to be like, look,
Then it just has to be done.
we just got to do it this way, and that's it. Um, so yeah, there was definitely a couple I would take with me, and a couple I wouldn't.
Well, that actually is another good segue, I think. Did you find the film changing much from what you scripted as you started shooting it? Or
Yeah.
would you say that it hewed fairly close to what you had written?
The performances changed it definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it just you know the if when they get into a character, like if they're good, which they were,
sure.
it just breathes life into a thing that it is sort of everything, really, because they suddenly become real people. It didn't really change the plot or the script that much, but it changed how I saw and felt
The
the whole
feel.
thing. Totally. Yeah.
Sure.
And the relationship, because it's really about the relationship between the two, and like that relationship obviously became about the relationship between the two actors, and that's really at the core of the film, and that definitely was different on screen as to what it was in the script. They became much closer, weirdly.
That's
They
awesome.
both they wanted to play it as a sort of, this couple are always going to make it sort of thing. Whereas in the script, it was much more like, maybe
Rocky.
that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I think that that's
Yeah, that's
awesome. And
cool.
that's part of the awesome collaborativeness of film in a lot of senses is sometimes, people bring things to a project that may not have even been kind of thought of, and then it just elevates it that much
Yeah,
more.
completely.
Turns it into
Yeah.
something totally different.
Completely.
Uh,
Yeah. No, I mean, that's where the magic happens, right? That
yeah,
is the bit that you can't control. And like, if you get it right, that is like so exciting to see it happen, because it's just like,
sure.
it's alchemy.
Well, I want to ask before we close out.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of the pressing questions is, you discussed wanting to be totally done, and then now thinking, man, I can't wait to do this again. Is there anything that you're working on now? Um,
Mm,
and can
yeah.
you share anything about anything?
So I've kind of got like three. I've got three scripts. One of which is the script that would be what I would make if like a studio came and said, "Hey, make a film." One of
Sure.
them is which if like an independent British sort of thing happened that it's like mid-budget, and one of which is the one that is probably the most likely to make, which is if none of that happens and I have to go out and shoot it in my backyard, like this one. So yeah.
Yeah. Are
um,
they are they in the same genre, or are
the the
they?
the mid budget one is in the same genre, and that's about a bunch of people who get trapped in a remote British service station. We call them service station. I don't know what you call them, like
Yeah, like a
fueling
gas station.
gas station. Yeah, but
Yeah.
in the UK they like are kind of uh, like quite big, almost like malls, like shopping centers with loads of
Oh,
stuff in
sure.
them.
Yeah. Almost like a
So,
truck stop here
yeah,
stateside, where it would be like they have things to buy and there's
yeah.
fuel. They can also do like repairs.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a post-apocalyptic thing about a bunch of people who get trapped in one of those and are kind of attacked from outside. So it's got like sort of George Romero vibes, I suppose, because
Yeah,
it's
I
like
like
that
that. That's
that's
fun.
zombies in a it's not zombies, but it's the same kind of feel of like, intruders coming at you in a sort of service station from outside. So yeah, that's
That's fun.
that's the
I
one I
like
really want
the
to make.
idea. Yes, I love that. Well, listen, we have a lot of people watching these. So if there's anyone out there from a studio that wants to invest some money in Tom here, please, we will happily connect the two of you. We would love to
Yeah.
see this film get made.
I
I
feel
do
like I
want to
could have
plug.
pitched it better than that.
That's all right. We'll have you back on to again. No problem.
Yeah.
I do want to say again, thank you to the Colorado Film Fests. This Tom's film Ribblehead will be showing at the Dickens Horror Film Festival October 16th. I encourage everyone to check it out. Go check out what's the website, Tom, where people can find your film?
It's www.ribbleheadfilm, all one word.com.
Excellent. You can watch the trailer there. You can read about the film. And then is there anywhere that people can follow you specifically to stay up to date on kind of what happens next?
Yeah, so all the socials are the same. It's whatever the social is, / Ribblehead Film, all one word. So Facebook, Insta, and Twitter.
Fantastic. Excellent. Excellent. And again, go check out project-nerd.com for all of your film festival coverage coming from Colorado Film Fest. Go check out coloradofests.com for more information on Colorado Film Festival's upcoming. And Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming and talking with us about the film. And until next time, guys, we'll see you later.